Well, let's start again. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's webinar, Summer Mixology. It's summertime, we have to be outside. I'm Greg Berry, Director of Communications in the Office of Alumni Affairs. Since we're virtual, please excuse any technical issues that may pop up or things like the stumble off the top. If you have problems with your video or audio, click the reconnect button on your screen to get back to the webinar right away. Just a quick note, this webinar is being recorded. We'll have a replay available on our website by tomorrow. Have a question for tonight's guest? Drop it in the chat. We'll have time for Q&A throughout tonight's webinar. Tonight, we're excited to welcome Brian Rabon to our webinar series. Brian earned his bachelor's degree from Auburn before earning his master's from the University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Engineering in 2006. He spent time brewing beer, moonlighting as a bartender, and collecting spirits from all over the world. Brian also is the founder of 30A Distilling Company in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. You can find out more about Brian's story with the UAB Green and Told podcast. He was a guest on episode 82 last October. Download it at alumni.uab.edu/green and told. At this time, I would like to turn things over to Brian. Brian, I am so excited to have you here, and I'm looking forward to making these cocktails alongside you.
Well, thank you, Greg. Welcome, everybody in the studio audience. We even have some UAB alums sitting next to me. So I'm going to make these cocktails and hand them over to some alums so they can drink them live.
Awesome.
Now, at 30A Distilling Co., we have a motto. As soon as you walk in the door, we want you to feel like family, and we want to put a drink in your hand. So before I really get into the tools and the techniques and everything, we're going to make our very first cocktail. So I'm going to take a rocks glass here. I'm going to grab some ice and just basically fill it most of the way full. Now, this is the easiest cocktail we're going to make tonight. We call it Playing in the Sand. So we have our bourbon cream. So 30A Distilling Co. bourbon cream. It's a Wisconsin dairy cream base with bourbon that I hand scrape vanilla beans into until it develops this delicious aroma of vanilla. And then I merge the two together. No preservatives, nothing else. And so basically I'm going to take my bourbon cream and I'm going to fill my glass about halfway full. And then the next ingredient you need is some root beer. Now, we are really particular here. We scoured the supermarket shelves to find a brand of root beer that would be as good as our bourbon cream. And what I found was two kind of fit the bill. So Virgil's and Maine Root. Both of those you could find at Whole Foods, World Market. You could find them at Fresh Market there in Birmingham. All of those would be really good choices. If you go to like Publix, you're probably going to find Abita's root beer or A&W, that sort of thing. It'll work, but I think of a good, better, best. And the best I've found, again, is Virgil's or Maine Root. So I'll just basically take this, fill it up the rest of the way. And then you want to take your bar spoon and just give it a little light stir there. And that's it. That's our very first cocktail. So cheers. I'm going to pass this on to our alum over here. That's called Playing in the Sand. And I'll tell you where I got that from. I've got the pleasure of visiting Headframe Distilling up in Butte, Montana. Really amazing place there. And they have a bourbon cream they call Orphan Girl. And they make the same cocktail, they call it a Dirty Girl there. So if you're ever up in Montana, if you go to Big Sky, that kind of area, Bozeman, Butte, make sure you order a Dirty Girl. They'll know what you're talking about. This tastes a little bit like a root beer float, and it's one of our most popular cocktails that we serve here in the tasting room. This is our tasting room, by the way. This is our bar. If you ever come visit us here on the Gulf, you'll come right into this space. So let's talk about some of the tools that you will need to be successful. Now, again, good, better, best. You can bartend with red Solo cups, some basic, cutlery, some plastic spoons, that sort of thing. I'm going to show you kind of what we use professionally. So you're going to want a cocktail shaker. We like the two halves here. We don't use the glass. You might see the glass. These two are pretty much stainless steel with a little copper coating. They go together really well. They allow us to shake. And then most importantly, they come apart. And we'll see how to use those in a little bit later. For things like an old fashioned, it's nice to have like a glass beaker that you can stir in. There are some cocktails that you want to make where you're actually stirring rather than shaking them. Now, this is a bar spoon. Again, you don't have to have a bar spoon. Bar spoon's nice and long, so it's going to allow you to reach down into your cocktail shaker. And then you'll see that it's been twisted. It's a little hard to see here on camera. Maybe if I put it over here by the door. It's been twisted, and what that allows us to do is to pour down accurately. So the twist will grab the liquid and direct them into the glass. So you can do, for instance, you can lay it across like this, follow the spout, and then you can pour down. And that's important if you're ever like layering cocktails and that sort of thing. If you're trying to layer a cocktail, you really don't want the layers mixing. You want to lay one on top of each other. That's more advanced that we'll get into in this webinar, but that's important as well. You'll also want some type of jigger. This is one that's kind of dual-sided, so you get a different couple measurements. Very common to have half an ounce, ounce and a half, that sort of thing. But you do need some type of measuring device. It's good to have some type of strainer. So because we're going with the best here, we're going to be taking fresh fruit and squeezing it. And as you know, that's going to have pulp in it. So a strainer helps get out some of the pulp. And, you know, pulp's not so bad. I don't mind pulp in my drinks, but I definitely don't want like lemon and lime seeds. So the strainer's going to catch those seeds and keep those from coming into your drink. There are pour over type strainers like this one here. So again, we can pour over it and catch it. When we start talking about garnishes, it's good to have a vegetable peeler. There's even specialized peelers that will allow us to pull off just like a ribbon. You'll see that in our next cocktail as we get to the old-fashioned. It's good to have a good paring knife. I got this one actually at Bresco in Birmingham, not too far from UAB. That's a good spot if you want to go and get a bunch of barware and that sort of thing. It's Birmingham's Restaurant Supply Company. And then a few tips and tricks. Get some speed pours. So this is one that's not metered. It's just very basic, kind of has a straw that allows air to go through. What you see us doing professionally is we take a bottle and then we hold it upside down, and it just kind of looks like we're pouring without any kind of regard. But what we're doing is we're counting in our head. We're going 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. And every half second, every count, basically, it's upside down is a half ounce pour. So if I want 1.5 ounces, I'm going to count to 3 upside down. So that just makes you look really, really cool and really professional. Another way to do it are these metered pours. They have a little ball bearing. And this one here is a half ounce, but you can also get ounce, 1.5 ounces. Slide this in the neck of the bottle, tilt it over, and it's going to give you a perfect pour every time. So if you're not good at keeping the count in your head, these make life pretty easy. Another option for you. And again, a place like Bresco is a really good spot to get stuff like that. So those are, like I said, a muddler is a good tool to have, just a wooden stick that you can use to press into your muddle things. So if you're making mojito, or as we'll see some of the drinks later on. And then, of course, some type of press for your fruit. So we do want to get the juice out of like our lemons and limes, although you can go ahead and buy the juice at the store. Talk about juice for just a second. If you want to make a really good cocktail, you need a good juice. And so the best juice you're going to get is fresh squeezed right in the moment. Now, you may not have time to do that, and that's fine. The next best thing would be to go to the fresh fruit aisle and look for the juices that are 100% juice and don't contain any sugar or added syrups or anything. About the worst thing you can do, or the least best, is to go to the cocktail section and buy any of the juices that are typically right there in that cocktail section, because those are 95% high fructose corn syrup with dyes and all kind of other additives in there. So that they're not really going to make a great cocktail for you. But again, they'll work in a pinch. So in our next cocktail, we'll need something called simple syrup. And simple syrup is really, really simple. What you want to do is get some hot water, and you can use a boiler, tea kettle, instant hot water pot, whatever you got. And you're going to add equal parts sugar and water. Now, again, good, better, best. You can take your Dixie crystals that you got at Walmart. That works just fine. If you want to go really cool, you go over to Whole Foods and get the Demerara. This is probably one of the best. It's kind of a very raw sugar, so it's very brown, as you can see here. The thing is it's not going to be appropriate for every cocktail because of the dark color. There are some cocktails where we better it with a lighter or whiter sugar. So we're going to use this in our darker cocktails because the flavor is going to be superior, and we'll use the lighter one in the ones where it matters based on color, because we do drink with our eyes as well. So to make your simple syrup, again, just boil your water, equal parts hot water, sugar. So you pour it in a vessel, and you just want to, while it's still super hot, you just want to stir it until all that sugar is dissolved. You're basically going to create a super saturated sugar solution, and then you're going to want to cool that down. And you can put it in the fridge, but a lot of times we'll just set it on the counter and we'll let it cool for a while. You definitely don't want to be in a hurry. You don't necessarily want to add ice to it either, because then you're going to be adding more water and the ratio is going to get more diluted. So we make it ahead of time. Of course, being a bar, we need lots of simple syrup. So we make it ahead of time. We keep it in bottles so it's always available to us. So that's how you make simple syrup. It's very, very easy. It's probably one of the easiest syrups to make. Just equal parts sugar, hot water, stir it, and then let it cool down to room temperature. You can throw that in the fridge. It's good for at least a week, possibly longer. Just be looking for signs of any kind of mold or growth on the top. That's your sign that it's no longer good. But it'll last pretty good long time. All right, so I hope you're enjoying that playing in the sand. We're going to move into our second cocktail now, and that's traditional old fashioned. So you're going to need a few things for this. First off, let's talk about the base spirit. So we have our Dunallen Rye. We name each one of our spirits after one of the beach communities here on 30A. And our Dunallen Rye it's a sourced spirit. So basically that means we buy it already made. We get a barrel into the distillery, and then we choose what proof to express it at. So I hand select the barrels, and I decide to proof the rye to 92. This has a mash bill of 95% rye, 5% malted barley. So it's a very high percentage rye. You can get ryes that are 100% rye all the way down to 51%. It's not going to be called a rye unless it's primarily rye, so it needs to be at least 51%. Now what you'll notice is the higher the rye content, the spicier and the more pepper you're going to get on the palate. And sometimes if it gets over 92 proof, it's just going to give you that Kentucky hug as well. So I'm not a huge fan of the Kentucky hug. I know a lot of people are, but I want you to know that there's some heat in that spirit, but not burn you out. That's kind of our goal here and how we proof things. So an alternative would be to use a bourbon. You can make an old fashioned with bourbon as well. Some people may prefer this. I like the rye because I do like a little bit of that spice and pepper to balance the sweetness of the simple syrup. And we're going to make it today with rye. So what I need is 2 ounces of rye. So it's a little bit more spirit than other drinks. And if you caught me there, I was counting to 4. And then we're going to take a rocks glass. We'll talk about glassware as we go along. This is kind of your standard rocks glass. If you go to the restaurant supply store, you can, again, find all these amazing glasses. I would steer you towards the smaller glasses rather than the huge ones. You can get rocks glasses, 6 ounces, 8 ounces, 10 ounces, 12 ounces, 14 ounces. The sky's the limit. They'll sell you anything. But what I try to do is keep them on the smaller side. And then that's really to help create a better, higher quality cocktail. Again, we're not trying to load this thing down with artificial ingredients and sugars and all that sort of thing. We're trying to really, really get to, I guess the way I think about it, I want you to taste the base spirit and then have the other ingredients kind of complement and highlight that base spirit. So one of the first things I like to do after I pour my spirit is I'm going to go ahead and grab an orange. Any variety of orange will work. And I want to come off with a ribbon. And it's going to look something like this. Now, I use this specialized tool that's for pulling ribbons. I can also take my paring knife and basically follow along, not cutting too deep into that orange. This takes a little bit longer. I didn't do a good job. I didn't get deep enough. Try it again. So you can pull off the section of the skin and kind of accomplish the same thing. Again, the tool makes it a little bit easier and kind of makes your life more impressive. So what I want to do first is I want to take this orange and I want to really run it around the rim of the glass. So what we're trying to do is get the orange oils all over that rim of that glass and really get them to be aromatic. That's the first thing. Like when that cocktail comes up to your nose, I want you to be hitting the face with that orange oil. Like Emerald says, bam, I want to get orange right then and there. Okay, so the other things we're going to need, I mentioned the simple syrup. So this is kind of to taste. We're going to do about an ounce right now. You don't want to overly, sugar your drink, but, certainly to taste. Everybody has a different palate. Everybody likes it a different way. And then the other ingredient we're going to need are some aromatic bitters. And so Angostura is the one you're going to find everywhere. You'll find it at Publix, Winn-Dixie, probably Walmart and Target, although I haven't really looked there. It is probably the most traditional. We have a partnership with a company out of Salt Lake City called Bitters Lab. And Andrea is the female entrepreneur who started that business. So we carry her products here in our tasting room. So if you're ever down and want to try a bunch of really cool bitter flavors, we have them. So with aromatic bitters, I just kind of want 2 or 3 shakes. I don't want to go crazy. If you ever try the bitters by themselves, it's going to be a flavor explosion in the mouth. It's going to be very strong, and I wouldn't highly recommend it, but it's good to know what things taste like. So let's just say a little bit of bitters goes a really long way. So the traditional way to make an old-fashioned is I'm going to stir it. Now, nobody's going to come and arrest you if you decide to shake it, but the traditional way is to stir it there. All right, let's talk ice. So again, good, better, best. If you just go to your fridge and grab out the ice that's been sitting in there for 2.5, 3 months, you know what it's going to taste like, right? It's going to absorb that shrimp you have in there, your Hungry Man meal. It's going to have every flavor under the sun. It's going to not necessarily make the best cocktail. So if you're ever having a party or whatever, run out to the store and buy that commercially made ice. Not only is it going to be easier, you're going to need the ice, but they're going to have done a really good job of filtering it ahead of time. Now, what you're looking at here is an orb of ice. It's about 2 inches. In an old fashioned, it's nice to have a big hunk of ice because what that's going to do is it's going to melt very slowly. We talk about dilution as bartenders. Some cocktails we want a little dilution, and others we kind of want to avoid it. So if I'm making an old fashioned and I use warm ice, it's going to melt really quick. It's going to get heavily diluted, and you're going to lose a lot of the character of that drink. It's just not going to be a really good old fashioned. So what we do is we take water that's been through our professional filters, and then we have an ice mold where we actually mold these, and then we go ahead and chuck them in the freezer ahead of time. And one thing you want to think about when you're freezing these is the more insulated you can make it, the clearer that ice is going to become. So when you put ice in the freezer, it can be really cloudy, and that is impurities. So if you're not using filtered water or the filter isn't very good, you're going to get a lot of impurities and you're going to have cloudy ice. The other thing that makes cloudy ice is when it freezes too quickly. So what you can do is get one of those really small igloo coolers and go ahead and throw your ice in there and let it freeze inside of the cooler. That's going to slow down the cooling process and it's going to make clear ice. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this giant chunk of ice in my glass here. Again, I'd already taken the orange peel, I'd rubbed it around the outside, and then we're just going to simply pour it in. And then I'm going to garnish by putting that ice in there. So that's your traditional old-fashioned. You can kick this up a notch, and one of the latest trends right now is smoking it. So what I have here is called a smoking cloche. It's a little expensive. There are a lot of cheaper versions of these. There's little ones that set on top of the glass. There's actually little smoking boards where you turn the glass upside down. And then you'll need some wood. So these are the two most popular woods. We offer 6 here in the tasting room, so you can come in and get your drink smoked and have six different woods to choose from. This is a wild black cherry. That's our #1 seller. And then our #2 is our apple. So all it takes is a little bit of pinch of wood. And then I've got a smoking gun here. I'm going to go ahead and put the wood in the gun. I'm going to turn that on. Then you got to apply some heat. The effect's not as dramatic as it is here in the room, but just trust me, this cloche is now filling up with smoke. Our guests are now sitting in the smoking section, as we like to say. And it really doesn't take very long for that drink to become infused with the smoke. So that smoke is now all over that glass. It's all over the top of the cocktail, the rock inside of it, and then the reveal. So here we have a smoked old-fashioned. So that's a fun one. Probably the #2 cocktail that we make here in the tasting room.
So Brian, with the glasses, you mixed it in the mixing glass. I mixed mine straight in here. Is there a benefit for doing it the way you did to pour the alcohol over the ice as opposed to mixing it in?
Well, if you think about the situation we're in, being a bar, we might be making 2 or 3 at one time. So you could technically make it in your own glass. That's fine. I would just probably start the drink and then do the orange. I wouldn't necessarily put the spirit in and do it the opposite way. But we typically use this because we're making multiple, and it's going to be high volume. So, any other questions at this point, Greg?
No, you're good.
Okay. So that's the old fashioned. All right, now the next one is a good summer drink. And I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. So if anybody is from Brazil, they're going to have to really forgive me. But it's called a Caipirinha, and it's made with what we call an agricole, or as they would say over in Brazil, a cachaça. And what that is, it's a cane juice rum. So what we do literally is we go out to the field, we hack down some ripe sugar cane, we bring it back to the distillery, we grind it in a press, and as quickly as possible, we inoculate it with yeast. And the reason we need to do that is because it's going to have all this wild bacteria and yeast on it, and they're going to start working on that juice the second it gets released from that sugar cane. So this is something that happens really, really fast. And if you think about what sugar cane is, it's basically a grass. It's a really tall grass. And so you're going to get a lot of really herbal, grassy notes in this. For some people, it's probably too overwhelming. You can make the same drink with Bacardi or other type of white rum. At that point, you're making a classic daiquiri, not the drink that we're making here right now. So maybe a little bit more of a specialty rum defined. Not sure if the ABC stores in Alabama, the Birmingham area have cachaça, but go look and go ask.
They do. I found it at the Galleria. There was a comment at the ABC store in Mountain Brook, but it's definitely harder to find because I had to go 10 miles just to find it.
Okay. Yeah, it's got a really funky nose, and it's kind of like you either love or hate it. I'm a huge funk guy, so give me a real funky like Pinot Noir or other funky spirit, and I'm going to love it. So this one's a lot of fun. Speaking of the clear simple syrup, so we're going to use basically one made with more of a white cane sugar. And then again, a rocks glass. This is a smaller size with 6 ounce. There's 6 ounce rocks glass. So with this glass, we're just going to fill it full of ice. Go ahead and get our glass chilling out. All right, and we're going to now use our cocktail shaker for the first time. So we're going to take an actual lime, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut it in half. And then I'm going to put that in my juicer. Don't need that anymore. Give it a good squeeze, and I've learned to put my hand over it so don't shower everybody at the bar, which I've done quite a few times. People don't appreciate getting citrus in their eyes. Going to go ahead and put that in my shaker. Discard that guy. Give me another one. So kind of gauge your limes here. I'm looking about the juice of one lime. The lime juice can be pretty potent. You don't necessarily want to have too much juice there. We're going to 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces. Okay, so we're going to do 1.5 ounces pour. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. All right, and then never hurts to put just a little bit of ice in your shaker. Again, not too much. We're going to want a little bit of dilution. Also helps to add your simple syrup. Might need that too. So we got rum, lime juice, and now, again, about 1 ounce or so of simple syrup. All right, when you put these two together, it's good to give it a little love. Every bartender has their own technique here. Get some cold hands, might feel good on a warm summer day. And then it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to get these apart, especially when they get really cold. So if you give it a really nice, good love tap, the gentleman you see popping in the shot every once in a while is Shannon, and he's probably made a few thousand drinks with this, so it's really well broken in, and it's coming apart really easy. When you get a brand new one, it may be really hard to get it apart. Again, I'm going to take that cocktail strainer, and if you notice, it kind of has like a spring type back on here. I'm just going to apply a little bit of downward pressure as I pour into the cocktail glass.
Do you have ice in that glass?
I've pre-filled my glass full of ice, and then I had a little bit of ice in my shaker to kind of cool it down as I was shaking. Now let's talk about how to garnish this. There's a million ways to slice fruit, but a technique that I like that looks really professional, I think it's really easy. Get your paring knife, your cutting board. Go ahead and cut the ends off of your lime. So now I have a lime where I just cut kind of the far ends off. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it into half. And then I'm going to take each half and I'm going to cut it into kind of 3 identical wedges.
For those that are playing along at home, we got a question. What was the first thing of what you put in that shaker for this?
Yep. So I put the lime juice, the spirit, and then the simple syrup. It doesn't necessarily matter what order. They're all going to get mixed together. Okay, so now what I have are these fairly uniform, attractive-looking wedges. It kind of looks like you're a professional, that you cut them really well. And then what I want to do is go ahead and give it a little bit of a squeeze, again, cupping my hand to keep from spraying everybody on the bar. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the drink. Another option would be to take like a little cocktail skewer, and you could stick that through your lime, and you could float that in the drink. I personally like to go ahead as a bartender and squeeze the fruit a little bit. You may, go out to a restaurant and order a water with lemon or tea with lemon, and it may come to you and it's not squeezed yet. Their intention is that you will squeeze it as much or as little as you want to. I find sometimes people don't want to touch it and they may forget. So I always go ahead and squeeze it a little bit so that some of that fresh juice is in the drink. So that's our Caipirinha. It's very aromatic, very, very refreshing. It's similar, like I said, to the classic daiquiri. I'm going to pass it over to our UAB alum.
Kind of got sour tones with I can't say the liquor, but the Brazilian rums, a little bit sour to the palate.
Okay, you might want to increase the amount of simple syrup that you put in there. The flavor I want to get here is I want a little bit of the tartness of the lime, but I don't want this really to be a sour drink. So in that case, you probably want to up the amount of simple syrup that you put in.
Hey, the ladies at my house, they love it. No extra simple syrup, so you're doing good.
Okay. Like I said, everybody has a different palate, and that's the best thing about making drinks is you can adjust the drink to fit the palate of whoever is consuming it. All right, now we're going to get to my personal favorite, the margarita. Now, margarita is, believe it or not, the #1 cocktail in the world. So more margaritas come out at bars than anything else. And you might be familiar with, Jose Cuervo. Maybe if you're feeling frisky, Jose Cuervo Gold. And, going to the grocery store and buying whatever margarita mix is on the shelf, having a few of those and waking up the next day feeling like death. That would be what we call a bottom shelf margarita. So that's in that good category, but we're going to show you how to make a really, really great tasting fresh margarita that's maybe a little bit different than you've had before. So talk about base spirit. You typically, in a margarita, you're going to use some type of tequila. Now, we make an American agave spirit. Tequila is a registered trademark of Mexico, just like bourbon is a trademark of the U.S. or champagne is a trademark of France. So ours is an American agave spirit. We also make one that's rested. So most of the agave spirits that you have on the shelf today, and they have some type of color if they've been rested, and maybe you can see that here. It's not a really good contrast, but the color should come from the barrel. Now, a lot of your lower end tequilas, that caramel, the color is going to come from something called caramel coloring, and it's an add-in that the government allows us to slip into beverages without telling the consumer. Now, personally, as kind of a health fanatic, I have a big problem with that. And part of our ethos at our distillery is we will list the ingredients that we put in the bottle right there. So our agave is simply agave nectar, water, and yeast. We're not using any coloring. And to make our reposado, our barrel aged, we end up putting it in a new French oak, new American oak barrel for at least 3 months. Reposado is aged for at least 2 months, but between 2 months and a year. So our reposados are typically 3 to 6 months. Now, if you like a less mild, maybe you don't like whiskeys, you like the lighter spirits, I would definitely go with a Blanco. If you actually want to taste the plant, the agave plant, a Blanco is the best way to go. The second you put it in a barrel and get like a reposado or an añejo, you're going to start getting those flavors from the barrel, so oak and that sort of thing. It just kind of depends on what you like. If you're a huge bourbon, rye kind of person, you're probably going to like a margarita made with a reposado better. The other thing we need is some type of orange liqueur. Now, we make an orange flavored rum. We get local Honeyville oranges from the 331 Farmers Market. So you can stop there on your way to the beach and get some fresh produce on the way to your condo or house. And orange rum works in this case. If you go to the store, you're more likely to find like Grand Marnier or Cointreau. Those are other options. Or again, if you're not going for the higher end, you can get a triple sec. The triple secs just generally have a lot more sugar in them, and they're not quite as high end. So we're kind of making that kind of top shelf margarita right now. So that's our base spirit. So let me clean out my shaker real quick. Now that's an important kind of tool and technique here. You don't want to start a new cocktail with a dirty cocktail shaker. And whatever you had in there before, maybe you're making a Shirley Temple for the kids or something, like you don't necessarily want that on top of your margarita. So we've got one of those fancy bottle rinsers behind the bar. That's why you see me reaching down there. It's going to spray up here and get all that stuff out of there. And I'm just going to lay it upside down on my bar mats for a second to let those drain out. Now, again, this can be kind of a high alcohol content drink, depending on how you want to make it. So I'm going to go 1.5 ounces of my Reposado. And then I'm going to do 1 ounce of my orange flavored rum here. All right, so now we need some glassware. So this is a pretty traditional margarita glass. You probably see these if you go out to Guadalajara or some of the other Mexican restaurants around town. And what I like to do is rim the glass. And rather than wetting the glass, I'm actually going to take one of my lime wedges and I'm going to go ahead and work that lime juice all over the rim of the glass. And then let's talk about the salt for a second. Now, if you're in a pinch, you can just grab a paper plate. And here's top secret probably of the whole lesson tonight. Go to your grocery store, doesn't matter if it's Walmart or Publix, and buy yourself a box of kosher salt. Kosher salt has a really nice kind of larger grain to it. And it's also fairly mild. It doesn't have a lot of like salinity to it. It's not going to bite you in the ass like white table salt will. This is like a bartender's friend, and it's also great for cooking. Once you start cooking with this, you probably never go back to using anything else. So quick and dirty way, just take your kosher salt, dump it out on the plate, kind of spread it out, and then you're going to take your glass upside down and do that. Now, being a bar, we have one of these really cool kind of multi-compartment units. Again, not necessarily the plate works fine. So I'm going to go ahead and take my glass upside down, give it a few twirls in there, and now I'm going to rim it. So that's now a rimmed glass, has the salt all over the rim. And the salt provides a nice contrast to the acidity we're going to get from the lime juice we're adding, as well as the agave flavor from the tequila itself. So I've got my base spirits in here. And again, I'm going to go back to my fresh fruit. Grab another lime here. Give it a good squeeze. One more. Now, you need some type of sweetener, and what I would highly recommend you do is get a little bottle of agave nectar. Agave nectar has a lower glycemic index, so it doesn't spike your blood sugar as much, and it has a really nice, rich flavor. We're going to go ahead and use the simple syrup. The agave I get here comes in 18.5 kilogram containers, and so that's a little awkwardly poured into a cocktail. So we're just going to use our simple syrup here. And I've hidden my jigger, thank you. Again, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 ounce or so, depending on, again, to your taste buds. All right, I'm going to go, at this point, I'm going to put some ice, being real careful not to disturb the rim I made on that drink. And then I'm going to put, again, a little bit in my cocktail shaker. Don't need that anymore. All right, then my strainer. Again, strain into the glass. Now, one thing that's really fun is once if you have one of those home dehydrators, then you can get lemons, limes, different types of fruit, and you can dry them. Now, what I'm noticing is that dried fruit is being sold all over the place. A lot of stores now carry it. There's actually even like bartending websites where they just sell dried fruit. So kind of elevate the margarita. I'm going to put a slice of lemon here that's been dried. Personally, my favorite is to dry blood oranges. So kind of blood oranges kind of come out once or twice a year. Whenever I see them in the grocery store, I grab a big handful of them and I dry a bunch of them. That way I have them. The dried fruit, if you dry it properly by taking out the majority of the moisture content, it's going to last a really, really long time. And it's fun because it goes in dry, starts rehydrating a little bit, and who knows, by the time you get to the end of that margarita, you might actually want to consume it or eat the dried fruit. So cheers to the elevated classic margarita. Oh. And if you're like me, you tend to overfill every single glass. So the biggest challenge is getting it to your guests without spilling it over yourself. And then,
hey, remind Rachel what's in that margarita. Actually, yeah, she's asking what's in the margarita so far. I don't know where we're at with the process when she responded, but go ahead and say what's in it. All
right, so 1.5 ounces of either Blanco or Reposado agave spirit. And again, I suggest something that's 100% agave. Then you're more likely to get, no additives, preservatives, that sort of thing. You're going to need some type of orange component. We use orange flavored rum here. You could use a Grand Marnier or Cointreau, and our triple sec. This is about 1 ounce. We're going to take the juice of 1 lime. We're going to squeeze that with the alcohol, and then we're going to add our simple syrup, roughly in the neighborhood of about 1 ounce. Again, kind of to taste. We'll add the ice. Give it a good shake, and then we'll pour it into our rimmed glass. I rim that glass with kosher salt. Okay, so we've got one more cocktail. Again, I'm going to clean out my shakers, do a little bit of cleanup here. That is important. If you're a good bartender, you're always cleaning as you go. You don't want to have a messy workspace. You might get off flavors if you're, again, mixing cocktails in the same cocktail shaker, but doing different things. All right, so I've saved a really tasty one for last. It is probably the most complicated that we're going to make this evening. It falls in a classification called Tiki. Now, Tiki is a whole kind of class of drinks. They kind of have a Polynesian flair. A bar called Trader Vic's kind of popularized them. And they can be a lot of fun. You can find all these like super crazy like ceramic or wood mugs online. You can make yourself a tiki bar out back with bamboo and all that fun decor. Get you some fish nets and that sort of thing. People go really, really wild with tiki. And there's some really great books out there describing a lot of the tiki drinks. So this is, like I said, it's kind of a whole classification. We're going to do a take on the classic Mai Tai. So if anybody's ever been to Hawaii, and been to a luau, they typically hand you a Mai Tai, and you can tell what kind of luau it's going to be by the taste of that Mai Tai. So if it tastes horrible, it's probably going to be not such a good experience. And if it blows you away, hang on, you're in for an amazing, amazing luau. So we're going to use 3 spirits in this one. We have a cane juice rum that's been aged. So what this is, it's that fresh pressed cane juice that was fermented. And then I put it in a bourbon barrel. This is my first project as a distiller. And so it stayed in a bourbon barrel for a little over a year. And what this rum picked up are some tea notes. So to me, this rum tastes a little bit like sweet tea on the palate. It is 90 proof, so it's a stronger rum. But what I would suggest getting is some type of darker, stronger rum. You could go with like a Navy strength. That's an interesting style. So basically, Navy strength rum is, they used to give rum rations to the seamen as they were traveling across the sea, and it became like so important. Like, I have to have my daily rum or I'm going to revolt. I'm going to not do my job anymore. And so what they would do is they would pour the rum on their gunpowder and they would light it. And if it lights, if it ignites, then it's strong enough proof. And they call that Navy strength. If it doesn't ignite, it's a lower proof, and then they pretty much mutiny and throw you overboard and kill you. So that's one ingredient, a darker rum, aged rum. And then we're going to use our classic white rum. We make our white rum with Louisiana sugarcane and blackstrap molasses. So you could get Bacardi Silver to do this. I personally like something that has a higher molasses content in it because I like flavor. That's one of the key things to me. Want lots and lots of flavor. And then we're going to bring out, again, our orange flavored rum. Again, you could use triple sec, Grand Marnier, or Cointreau. All those would be applicable there. Now, a lot of these tiki drinks, Polynesian drinks, are going to require some pineapple juice. So the best pineapple you could get would be, something that you just juiced yourself from an actual pineapple. The next best thing would be to go and, again, look in the juice section, find something that's 100% pineapple juice with no additives. They do have those in Publix. You just need to look in the juice section, not the kids' juice section, but like the more adult juice section. There's a lot of really good options there. We're going to need some cream of coconut. So a lot of tiki drinks have some type of coconut component. And then something a little more specialty, this is called Creole orgeat. So orgeat is a syrup that's made with, in this case, pecans. And it's going to add a really nice little sweetness, of depth of character. We use a company out of New Orleans called El Guapo. I'm a little partial to them because the founder is an Auburn grad. So again, female entrepreneur from Auburn. She bought this brand and revived it. So next time you're down in the French Quarter, keep your eye out for El Guapo. They have a bunch of really cool bitters. They have like crawfish boil. They have Polynesian kiss. They have a whole line of different bitters. They're a lot of fun to play with. We were using the crawfish boil bitters in a Bloody Mary there for a while. That's a good drink to make. So again, a clean cocktail shaker. This is again going to be kind of an alcoholic drink. So I'm going to go basically an ounce. So ounce of the dark rum, ounce of the light rum, ounce of the orange flavored rum. Rum. All right, then we're going to grab our pineapple juice. And again, kind of soup to taste here, anywhere from an ounce to an ounce and a half. Then I'm going to give myself a bit of squeeze here of our coconut. And then roughly half an ounce or so of our Creole orgeat. And a little bit of simple syrup as well. The simple syrup here, you could go with a little bit less because the Creole orgeat's already got some sweeter component to it. Now, the one thing you're going to notice, that we need some fruit. Yep, so let me get some juice in there too. Oh, orange. Thanks there, Shan. Grabbed the wrong fruit. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit of orange juice in here. Now, with this drink, we added coconut cream, and you're going to notice the cream is creamy. It's a little thicker, and it's not going to want to go into suspension very well. So I'm going to put a little bit of ice. I'm going to need to shake the hell out of this. You keep shaking until you can't stand it anymore, and then go a few seconds longer. And maybe you can see down here, it's going to be nice and frothy on the top. Going to take my tiki glass, fill it up full of ice. Grab my cocktail strainer again. And then for this, you could garnish with pineapple. I personally will take an orange slice, put that up on the rim, get a environmentally friendly straw there. And now we have kind of an elevated take on the classic Mai Tai. Cheers. So that's the most complicated cocktail, 3 spirits, a bunch of mixers, but it is absolutely delicious, very refreshing during the summer.
And remind them how much pineapple juice and how much coconut cream. I think you said coconut cream was just a splash, but go ahead and say that again.
Yeah, with the pineapple, somewhere between an ounce and a half, again, depending on your taste. And then you probably about half an ounce of coconut cream. Again, as a bartender, you just kind of get used to like, okay, that's enough. I just squeezed enough in there. So what other questions do we have, Greg?
Well, if anybody has questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We've been playing along with you, and I think everybody at home, or a lot of them, have been playing along with you as well. So there hasn't been a whole lot of questions. Michelle does ask, what if you cannot find bitters? What do you use?
So without bitters, you don't have an old-fashioned, but there are ways to make your own bitters. So what you would do is you would get some type of base spirit. You could get vodka. You could get like Everclear. You could even get like a brandy, depending on what flavor profile you want. And then just go raid your spice cabinet. Grab some allspice and some clove. If it looks kind of woody and pulpy, cinnamon, just throw it all in that alcohol and then let it sit. Might get like a mason jar or something, and then every day come by and stir it or shake it, and then just taste it every day. And what you'll notice, maybe the first day it still tastes a lot like alcohol. Maybe 3 days to 5 days in, you're starting to get a little bit like you can really taste the herbs. And then maybe one day it starts to taste just a little bit bitter. Take all the herbs, filter the herbs out, like pour them over, your cocktail strainer or some cheesecloth if you have it. Filter those herbs out, and then at that point, you basically made your own bitters. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It just depends on what flavors you have. Like literally, just raid your spice cabinet, find what you have in there, and it'll turn out.
So, and I'm going to say this wrong, orgat, orgeat, whatever it's called. Somebody's asking, where can you find it? And I would say, what's a replacement? We use amaretto because we couldn't find it. I could find it on Amazon, but not at any local store.
Yeah, it's going to be probably a specialty item. I don't know if World Market in Birmingham carries any, maybe not. You're definitely not going to find it at like Whole Foods. If you're, my grandfather used to make a caramel cake from scratch. And so he was really good at turning sugar into that like amazing caramel icing that went on cake. Yeah. If you have that kind of skill, you might be able to make your own, get some pecans or walnuts and some sugar and basically make like a nut syrup. So that might be an alternative.
And I did see Stuart says he made his own from almond milk. And I did Google, and that's one of the things that I did see.
Yeah, you can definitely use almonds in there as well.
So with bitters, we here at the house have orange and non-orange. Is there a preference? Can you go either way with an old-fashioned?
Well, one of the things we have on our menu is like Stump the Bartender, and he will make you an old-fashioned with any spirit that we have and almost any bitter. So it's like one of those fun things where you can just be as creative as you want to be, and there's no really wrong way to do it. So I mentioned that we have Bitters Labs products. So we have a hibiscus and yuzu. We have plum and oak. We have charred cedar and currant. I mean, I have a whole box here of just incredible different flavors. So, you really can't go wrong. It's, again, up to what you like and what your taste buds delight at.
So when it comes to bitters, you can find, a big old thing of bitters. We got a smaller one, a skinnier one, because it's going to last forever. So how do they expire? How frequently should you replace bitters? Do you have to turn them over as much as some other things?
Pretty much once you open them, they're good for about a year. Again, if you start tasting them or smelling them and they're not as aromatic, it's just like the spices in your cabinet, right? If you go buy a thing of pepper or chives or whatever, after about a year, oregano, it's just going to lose its potency. So, it's one of those things where a little bit goes a long way. And if you're, a typical household making a few cocktails a week, one bottle of bitters will practically last you the whole year. If you're a craft cocktail bar like we are, it might last us a week or two. So, it really depends on the volume of drinks that you're producing.
And we got a couple questions about a replay. We do have a replay of this. Stuart, I don't know if we'll necessarily have recipes in follow-up. I'll work with Brian to see what we can do, but you can log on and anytime you want and view the video, and you can go step by step, pause it as much as you want. Doesn't really matter. Scott might be able to answer too if we can get that as well. Tours at 38 Distillery, do you offer them? How can people hook up?
Sure. So I grew up in Birmingham. I went to Pelham High School. Every year we went down to the beach, and the beach for us was always the Highway 38 area between Destin and Panama City. We are located in Santa Rosa Beach, just north on Highway 393. So that's like where Gulf Place is, and Chunk Gully, that's 393. Just go across 98, and we're a half mile up in the South Walton Business Center. We offer tours. We have a public tour, and we also have a VIP tour. Those are experiences that you book ahead of time. So if you want to come down and you want to see our still, if you want to see the raw ingredients that we use to make our mash bills, if you want to spend time with me, that's how you do it. You set up a tour. We have our tasting room open nights and weekends. And Shannon, our bartender extraordinaire over here, he'll pop into the frame for a second. He will make you one of the best tasting cocktails you've ever had. The tasting room, again, open nights and weekends, 3:30 to 7:30, and on the weekends, 12:30 to 7:30. You just walk into the tasting room. It looks like this. You're actually in it right now. We're a full craft cocktail bar. We also have a great retail section where you can get your hats and T-shirts and any bottle of our spirit that you want. As you can see here, we have a wide lineup of spirits, about 12 SKUs at the moment. I've been pretty much a mad scientist since we opened a year ago, and we have a spirit for just about everybody. One of our most popular ones, besides the bourbon cream, we took some Chilton County peaches and we made a Chilton County peach vodka. We sold out of that really quick, so we're going to be getting some more from Peach Park and Durban Farms here and making some more real soon. So.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much. I do want to tell people, episode 82 of UAB Green and Told, Brian shares his story. He was doing bars as a candy bar back when, you were 5, 6? I forget exactly how old you were, but he shares a story. Fantastic thing. So thank you so much for spending the last hour plus with us. It's been enlightening, and it's been fun to see the different drinks and learn some new cocktails that we can do.
Yeah, I got one last thing for you, Greg.
You bet.
So every great cocktail needs a great toast. And the best toasts come from the Irish. So I have one for you. May your glass be ever full. May the roof over your head be always strong. And may you be in heaven half an hour before the devil knows you're dead.
Cheers. And I am going to flip one more question to you, even though we did that. Somebody's asking, cachaça. Am I saying that right? Cachaça. What else can you use that in?
Well, I love drinking it neat, but there's a wide array of cocktails that you can use. Shannon, what are some of your favorites?
I'm making a cachaça sour. So I take egg whites, lime juice, simple syrup, and that rum, and it's a unique flavor with that rum.
So if anybody's ever been to like Peru, gotten like a pisco sour. Just replace the pisco with the Brazilian rum, and that's another fun one.
Another one I've done is I took our gin and that.
Shannon, don't be afraid. You can slide back on camera, man.
So with the Mai Tai we just did, I've taken the agricole rum and the gin that we make, and I put those two together, and I made another Hawaiian style Mai Tai using rum and gin together. Also, with that agricole rum. It's really tasty. It was Scott's favorite drink until I changed the menu.
Awesome. Guys, again, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been very enlightening, and we've really enjoyed it.
Thank you all very much.
You bet. And just a reminder, before we leave, tonight's webinar was recorded. We'll upload this onto our website by tomorrow. Attendees will also receive an email once the replay link is ready. And before we go, here's a look at some of the upcoming webinars. On Thursday, June 15th, actually, I think it's 13th, join us for Breaking It Down. It's June 15th. There we go. I've got typos in my script. It's Breaking It Down, Common Orthopedic Injuries in Sports. Dr. Stephen Brown and Dr. Ian McKegg will take a close look at which injuries parents need to be most concerned with. Then on Tuesday, July 18th, come back for Nutrition, Fueling, and Hydration, where we will discover what our kids and us need to be consuming to avoid things like cramps and heat illness. We hope you return on Thursday, July 27th, when we'll host Performance Management, Your Deed to Success. This webinar will feature Dee Maddox as she explains how we can utilize her original platform by demanding excellence in everything you do. And on Thursday, August 3rd, hear from a panel of administrators before our kids return to the classroom with tips and tricks for curing the back-to-school blues. Find out how to get your family back in their routine, how to build relationships with school staff, and more. Register for these webinars and others at alumni.uab.edu/events. And finally, let us know how we're doing. Share your thoughts by accessing the QR code on your screen. We'd love to know what you've liked so far and what you'd like to see. Maybe more of these. We would love it. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Brian, have a good evening. You're free to go. Enjoy the rest of your night. And as always, go Blazers.
Go Blazers. I can't see the screen anymore.
Wow.
Got to see the X so I can turn it off.